Hello everyone, this is Sungbo. In the previous session, to showcase, I introduced how Maca can send an HSM message to the internal service, which is ORM listener. Today, I'm going to introduce a little more about how Maca can send an HSM message to the external application. In our case, Mirth Connect integration engine. For those who haven't used Mirth Connect, this session will give you a great start of Mirth Connect, how to use. So let's get it started. Before we move on, let's review what we did before. In the previous session, we created three services to send an ORM message. First one was Dicom reader. The second one was ORM sender. And the third one is ORM listener. What today we are going to do is to send an ORM message to not to the ORM listener, but to the external application. As I mentioned, Mirth Connect. But before I do that, you may think about how can we test each service. For DICOM reader, this service read the DICOM files. So we may think that maybe we get more DICOM files with a different values, such as uh, name tag or date of birth tag, like a couple of things. But in the limitation of the testing, because we need a lot of DICOM files to cover such cases. For example, we may have certain situation that missing tags, the value is in a different tag and different data, or the data value format is not what we expected. That will be totally fine because each manufacturer has their own standard to populate the value in each tag. So in order to test DICOM reader, we may have to provide our own way by modifying DICOM files text and save a different file and then read those files from the DICOM reader to proceed the testing. That's okay. But what about the ORM sender? This is highly depends on the DICOM reader. Without this one, this might be not testable at all. So you may think that providing DICOM file is not enough. So, and also we may think about this situation without using that when we need a certain kind of test message to send to the target destination. How can we do that? The current ORM sender is highly automated, sort of, because when the DICOM reader requests the ORM sender, it automatically sends the message to the target destination. But if you want to send a custom message to the ORM sender, for now, there's no way. So think about these sample test cases below. We have 5 test cases. The first one, non-ORM message. Of course, ORM sender is not expecting any ADT, SIU, something like that. But somehow this is listening, so somebody or other service accidentally or intentionally send the other message, such as ADT message. And also, certain message sent to the ORM sender as MSH11 value is missing. For example, MSH11 is required by HR7. It must be there, always should be there. So if that is not there in ORM sender, just relaying or forward message without checking that to the target destination, the receiving application may complain. And sometimes they may not have certain filtering or checking condition because they expect they should be there always. So in those two cases, ORM sender should not send to the target destination because will overload the work of the target destination. So to prevent that kind of situation, we may filter these two cases. And the third case, missing PID7 field. For example, the Seattle location expects the date of birth to establish certain condition. So without PID7, Seattle location, in the application inside the Seattle location will be not processed. So it will return certain kind of error or reject message. And also, missing PID7 value is empty. It will be also create certain kind of exception cases from the receiving application. And lastly, send a valid ORM message. This is a kind of happy path, which is good state. So we have to cover a variety of test cases with the ORM sender to prevent such kind of exception in the target destination. For example, we created ORM listener inside Maca by faking external application. So in the long run, this ORM sender will targeting to the application by disconnecting to the ORM listener. So to make this happen, what will be a consideration? So this diagram shows more extended information about how can we handle such kind of situation, including testing. Previously, we created this area to just process one-time deal. One-time deal means once that there is a DICOM file, it will be executed. No more than that. Like processing extra messages or processing custom messages or even processing previously processed messages, which is not uh, available in prototype. So let's take a look at this part. We created like a reader to send an HSL message to the ORM sender, and then ORM sender is listening that. And when the message has come after request was mapping, we saw that last time. How can we associate between icon reader and ORM sender? And then once the message has arrived, ORM sender will send the message to the client's app. So, as we concerned, if we try to test the ORM sender, we need a certain kind of way to providing any test messages. So, in that case, we may create a specific service named ORM sender tester. As this service name states, ORM sender and tester means this service is dedicated to test the ORM sender. So once we create the service, then how can it test or send the custom message on the fly while this message is keep going and other services are running? In that case, we may go to the management workstation and log in as a user and then click the process button by providing custom message. I will show this a little later. And then we may reprocess the previously processed message. For example, if we send a certain message and successfully sent there, but somehow the client app didn't have any special logic to process that. Maybe there may be something glitches or missing a logic, and then they don't have a special storage to look up. And there's no way to reprocess from their end. In that case, you may send from the previous history by checking the specific ID, for example, and then pick up and then send that previously sent message to the ORM sender, and then ORM sender just relaying to the client's app. And if the client's app has fixed logic there, then they will process that. So back to our ORM sender tester. How can we implement that? So This will be the exactly same as we did before for Typhon Reader. We are going to create the ORM sender tester. So let's look at in the detailed steps. So we can add the test cases here, and then each test case will send a variety of situation, like ORM message with a different condition. And then second thing is map this ORM sender tester to the ORM sender, as we did before, like custom mapping. And then deploy the ORM sender tester and see how the result is. Sorry for the noise. And import ORM sender tester from the sample project. What this means is I will show you a little bit. If you look at the Maca install location, as you saw before, there is a tutorial folder that has two files. One is Maca Suite Tutorial PDF, and second one is sample project. If you extract that sample project, you'll notice that there are several files that we saw in the showcase session. So if you look at the testers folder under the HS7 folder project, there is ORM sender tester, which is exactly what we are going to create. So in the Macadamia, and we don't have any open project yet, even if we created it before. So we can choose the recent project. Of course, we are under the Seattle PC, and then open it. And then I removed all the other project, which is not relevant to this demo session. So we have three pre-built services. And what we are going to do now is same as before, import it, and then keep looking at the Maca tutorial, and then from the extracted folder, I will pick up the ORM sender tester. So if we look at the ORM sender tester, this is a pretty simple code repeater. So it executes in the time interval. We don't have any deployed or undeployed code. And only we have steps. And there's no finalizer. So let's take a look at the steps. Currently, some codes are commented and some are not. And I'm going to comment the below lines, which is the original code that doesn't use any references at all. So next is enable commented lines. So if you look at these lines, you will see that there are a couple of sections. For example, test 1, test 2, test 3, to test 5. So what these sections do is it creates test HS7 message. The reason why I say HS7 message is it creates ADT and ORM. So each HS7 message will be sent to the ORM sender. So the thing we have to focus on here is we have to provide the sample cases based on the test cases. For example, the first one is non-ORM message, and second one is missing MSH 11, and the others are what we mentioned about the PID7 and valid ORM message. So if you look at the here, there is a section that MSH string or add segment MSH. They are all predefined code, especially contains the specific test cases. For example, the first test case is sending ADT. So we mentioned that the first test case should be ADT. And then the second one is missing MSH 11. So if you are looking at here, we have the certain location is missing, like here. This is message 11. Oh, by the way, if you look at the this empty one, you will probably confuse that, well, is it that's actually message 11? And then if you go to the H7v2 Java API from HAPI page, this is for Java developer actually site. This this is mostly helpful for the API developer for Mirth Connect or other Java-based developer, especially for healthcare industry. But this side will be very helpful for both Java or like me, C Sharp. So if you go to this website, you see that there is a section that Java down. So there are a couple of from 2.1 to 2.8.1. Oh, by the way, this is H7 version 2. It doesn't have the H7 version 3 detail, but it still supports, but we are focusing on H7 version 2. So if you look at here, for example, if you look at 2.3.1, and you will see that on the left side, there's a segment section that has the MSH we were looking at. So if you look at here, MSH, so MSH 11, which is processing ID. And then if you look at the here, so message type, which is this is message type. And after that, I put the test ID to identify this message. But this message should be this field should be message control ID. It can be populated with other value. And then the 11th one was processing ID, which is empty here. So like this way, we can provide specific test cases with the test case with a variety of situation. So 5 test cases defined here will be defined here as well. And as we did before, we can even put the certain thing like reference as we did before. Instance has the sending facility, which is value 1, defined as a Seattle. And if you look at the second one, request async. So I will show you a little demo about what this means. If we look at the add service request pop-up, we can see that ORM sender is requestable. And then if we click add, we can see that this one. So instead of like having direct GUID here, we may put this GUID in the other location to be referenced. For example, if we move or clone this file in the other location, like right under the project, or make even even we may create another group, and place this ORM send a test to there. It always look at this value, so it will be easy to follow up, even if we can change, because if I put it here, if the target service, for example, for ORM sender, is not this one, target service is not ORM sender, and then the target service is like different one, we can just change this value. So we don't have to change all the test cases one by one, because it points at a specific reference, and just change this value will enough to modify the test cases. So instead of have the hard-coded one, we can put this with in the other location, for example, group or project. We can just reference that value. So using this technique, you can send the test message to ORM sender, like this explanation, request mapping. And then this test HSM message will be sent to the ORM sender with the defined test case. So, and I briefly mentioned before, there is a field that plays with the test ID. Certain location can be populated with the not standard value. So I placed the test ID in here, and I will show you how it looked like. So based on the 5 test cases, we can specify here and just run this service, and it will execute 5 test cases to the ORM sender. For now, the ORM sender is checking the field MSH91, which is the ORM or ADT or SIU value. So if MSH9.1 is not ORM, it will reject as a filtered one, which means do not send these 2 cases to the ORM sender. So this is what I just mentioned. And then the next one is just simply sending without processing any code. I demonstrated this one before, what is actually the code can be done or played in this section, which is HSL message generator. For the simplicity, I may create the sample message from here, but I just copied and I captured the sample or the message, which can be prepared from the here to play with that one little later. So let's see. Okay, so it's running. Let's deploy. Oh, by the way, this is the another test session. So every other services other than this HS7 older project are deleted from the so to make sure we are focusing on HS7 message on. So and if you remember the last session, the DICOM reader submit the DICOM file location to the web API, Maca web API service. So that was also removed. So we are just sending DICOM reader's message to the ORM sender. So let's load all these 4 services to the server. So we don't have any specific one. As we mentioned, we have a specific code to be exception once that value is not missing. So same thing, if the message is accidentally sent to the ORM listener, this is also reject. But the original idea is to not send certain message which is not valid or not the ORM. So let's load. You see, remake. Okay, so by the way, I mentioned that this is the what I just added. So you can put the value, any of the value here, and then click add. So instead of loading one by one, we just double check whether this is valid. And just click the. So this might be the best way to click the HS7 order project because I may put the target service here as well. But in the step, the group is pointed at, so we may just click this tester group because the tester group also has the target service. So we can load all the services under the testers. The first thing is ORM listener. And the second thing is ORM sender. And the last one is what we did before, which is the dichrometer. So once we deploy this one, automatically send the message to the ORM sender. And if you look at the ORM listener, we have the success message based on the DICOM file. So let's stop this dichrometer for the time being. And next thing is the ORM sender tester. We didn't start this one before, but once we deploy and it is started, it will send a 5 message, test message immediately. Successfully sent the 5 messages. And then autumn sender. What we can expect autumn sender is we have 5 received the message. So total will be 6 because the first one is what we sent through the dichrometer. And the next one from the number 5 to 1 are what we sent. The first one is the filtered one because it should be in this category and should not be sent to the target destination. So this one is error. And if you look at the exception, the processing ID is not found because we didn't provide that one in the test message. And the next one, which is the third one, is also error because PID7 is missing. In the fourth one, which is ID2, is error because the value is empty. The field is there, but value is empty. And the last one is the happy path. We successfully sent the right field. And just take a look at the autumn listener. So what we can see now here is not 6, but 4, because in the autumn sender, those 2 messages were filtered and didn't send to the target destination. If you look at here, T0001, T0002, and T005. And if you look at the autumn listener, T003, 4, 5. So after filtering, all 3 messages were sent to the autumn listener. And as we provided, no PID on empty value and value autumn was processed successfully in the autumn listener. So if you look at here, you can see that this request was requested by Macaron because there was no human intervention to execute certain code or send certain value. So think about this case that what if I want to send a specific message to the autumn sender because we just finished the autumn sender tester. But how can you send a custom message when we need, like after this test or in certain urgent session, like we need some kind of missing HSL message, which is not part of this test or this reader case. In that case, we can send certain message. For example, I just copied this one. Then if you go to the autumn sender, back to the diagram, the request is sent to the autumn sender. So autumn sender can be a place to send a message. So if you look at the autumn sender, there is a tab, request. If you look at the other service, you don't have any requests because the request tab is only for HS7 client, and there's another service which is part of web Maca Web API, and that is request listener, but there is no request listener, so you don't have see any place to put certain value to request. So if you look at the ORM sender, there is a place to put the HSL message. And if you look at here, there's a process button here. Same. This will be pretty similar to the Mirth Connect if you're already familiar with. So you can click the ORM sender. For other service, which is HSM client, you will see this kind of viewer is enabled, and we can send this one. But in this case, we may send a custom message, just testing purpose, like we are not sending the happy path, which is 1 or 2. 1 is 0, 2 is value. So if you remember, if you send 3, which is none of the 2 location, it will complain from the ORM listener. And we may change the button name just in case. And then click the process button, and the message is queued. We need to go back to the observer. And if you look at the history, we have more value, which is the last one. We just sent as a free, and then internally inside ORM listener, send this message with rejected, unsupported facility. So if you look at the here, you can identify little different thing in the request by, because this was done or requested by admin currently logged in. So somebody sent that certain HSL message through this request UI. They should be in here and can be tracked. For example, if I log out and log in as a different user that I just created, and I'm currently logged in as a sidekick, and then if I go to the bottom sender, currently this was cached, and then if I send again with the other value and hit process, and if you look at here, there's another row with the sidekick, which is currently loading as me. So this will give you certain kind of user activity. For now, the user activity is not available, even if there's an option to who processed the message, who reprocessed the message, who retrieved the message, who viewed the message. Viewed means in the ORM sender, in the transaction list, there's a message section. So if somebody click this one and currently log in as a sidekick and view the certain message, that activity will be saved in the database and can be tracked using this user action page or tab by clicking retrieve. But for now, this is not implemented yet because this is still prototype. So in the next release, it will be here with the more specific results. But for now, you can send a custom message using the request tab after you load in here. So we can send urgent or specific message based on the client requirement, which is not established in our system. So you may have certain specific situation that is not possible through the UI or through the application or through the service. So we just saw that how can we test the ORM sender using ORM sender tester, and also we can send a specific custom message through the Request tab in the management workstation. So we just finished with ORM Sender Tester. If you have more question or if you need some kind of extra information, you can go here, and then there's more information about that, which is a little bit different from what I just showed you, but the baseline will be all the same. So we just finished internally. And back to the goal, how can we interface with the Mirth Connect integration engine? The first thing we can see is the auto-generated ACK. Today, we are not going to dive into Mirth Connect, how to compose the message in the Mirth Connect. Of course, you can briefly see that, but we're not talking about any kind of deeper coding or deeper configuration of Mirth Connect. We just focus on how to exchange message itself. So the code will be very minimal and very basic. So based on that, this demo will be done. So first of all, let's take a look HSM message exchange flow that we can change. Previously, we point at the ORM listener, which is port 8081. But in this case, we have external application, which is Mirth Connect integration engine. And then as we did, we can send custom message from the management workstation. So we can send directly from the Tycoon reader or from our test service, again, with ORM Sender Tester. The only thing is we are not using ORM Listener at all to send an HSM message. But this ORM Listener can be used to interact with the Mirth Connect as well as a target destination from the Mirth Connect standpoint. So the first thing we are going to do is we are going to switch by disconnecting and switch to the ORM listener in the target application. So the first thing is that we have the Mirth Connect and already installed, and I created previously. I worked on ORM listener to make this demo session shorter because creating even short line of code takes some time. So the first thing is that I created it. If you follow this step with the screenshot, is what I'm going to show you. So let's take a look at the ORM listener I just created. How can we create this? Just go to the channels, and the new channel will open up the edit channel, and then you can name as whatever you prefer. In my case, I already created with the ORM listener. And then the data type will be HL7, which is the predefined one, because this will listen HL7 message from the external application. In our case, Maca. Maca will send HL7 message through the TCP IP. And then keep it as it is. And then just in case, we just set the initial state as stopped. It's similar to the tester service under the testers folder, because that service under the testers won't be start automatically. So we can just keep as it is. So we will not create the same changes because we already created. And then if you go to the source tab, you can change the connected type as a TCP listener, because this is pretty same as the Maca, because Maca override the TCP listener and then set as a HL7 listener. And also keep the port as a 6661. And then you can see that the response as a auto-generate the source transformer. So what this means is it will send whatever the code is, always send the same accepted message as we saw in ORM listener. in the configuration settings, and then config. As we saw, and we switch to unsend the auto default ACK. If we switch back to the on, it will always send AA and receive whatever the message is valid or invalid. Similar thing is here. It will send automatically once the message is received and the source is done, the transform is done, and then the subsequent code in the destination won't be affect the ACK message generation, which means always send the same message. Like we just received, that's it. We just received, that's it. Received, that's it, like that. So no more detailed information, whether, hey, received, but the data we received is invalid, or certain field value is incorrect or invalid, like that. Just always send, receive a message. And if you look at the filter, I just commented a certain lines, but it will be used in the later section. And in the destination, you can change the connector type as a JavaScript writer because it will be a little more way to add the more logic in here. For now, we just add one line of code that shows certain information on the dashboard. So what Mirth source in here is the Mirth has the destination map. If you look at the uh, set data type, it is H7 version 2. So if you look at here, and it is set as H7 version 2, and if you look at this destination mapping, and then what I just wrote here is merge source is this message source. This global map merge source will pick the MSH4, which is, in our case, sending facility. If you remember that in the autumn sender tester, oh, I have to switch back to the development workstation. In the autumn sender tester, if you look at the here, the sending facility, this location is MSH4. We usually used the instance reference instead of the direct value. So this that MSH4 should be accessible using this merge source. And we'll use that one or directly from the message. But for now, there's no specific code in here except the showing certain code. So using this basic structure, you can run this channel. But before that, we can copy this port because we have to connect to this server and can deploy the channel. And as I said, this is not automatically start. And we have to start. And it is started. And go back to the Maca, and we are on the develop instance UI. And if you go to the bottom sender in settings, so we disconnect kind of this bottom sender from the bottom listener in Maca and connect to the bottom listener. So we can load this one. Just in case, you can just follow me in this one. And by the way, if you are looking at the Mirth Connect, there is a connection area column, and this is currently idle. No client is accessed. So if you redeploy this bottom sender, which is currently targeting this location, which is currently running, And if you look at here, it shows that it's connected. So we are ready to send any message. First, you can send the DICOM message, the message from the DICOM file. So you can just restart the DICOM reader and it will send the message to ORM sender. And for now, it will send the message to the ORM listener in Mirth Connect. So we can start. It is internally read the DICOM file and then send the message to the ORM sender. And the ORM message will be sent to the target listener like this. Mirth Connect or Mirth Connect's ORM listener just received the message. And from the our end, just take a look. So it says succeed. And we receive the default message from the Mirth Connect. We go to here. You can see that the variety of the messages like raw message, transform message, and encoded message. And lastly, response. So this is what Mirth Connect sent back to the Maca. So Maca captured that message and showed that because it's sent AA, which is accepted. And then it captures that one and then shows that it was okay. And the next thing, as you expected, is the ORM sender tester. So for now, we can restart the ORM sender tester to initiate the sending the message to the ORM sender. But for now, we may just stop. Although this is run every 30 minutes, just stop and reinitiate the ORM sender. And then it will send the ORM 5 messages to the ORM sender. So what we can expect is from the Mirth perspective, it will receive 3, and the receiver will be total 4. And in the ORM sender case, it will be 5. But we have more because we have a previous the information, unless we didn't delete. So it has the now 4 received. So we can click the ORM sender and retrieve that. For now, we have 6 because we redeployed ORM sender. And here, look at the first one, which was sent through the DICOM reader. And the second one is filtered, of course, by the ORM sender. And the third one from the bottom is filtered from the ORM sender. And all the rest 3 messages will succeed. If you look at previous message, it should be all, oh, not all, those 2, this one and this one from Mirth side should be not AA. But this is AA because, of course, this is should be AA as well. Because we set the response as auto-generated. So if we look at here, we have 3 messages and take a look at the Mirth. You can see that the messages was here, T005, T004, and T003. And of course, the last one, which is the earliest one, is what we sent through the DICOM reader. So based on that, we notice that this feature in both side, from Maca or from Mirth side, takes care of certain exceptional case to prevent that it's not happening. But if we're going to make sure that every message should be strictly follow the rule of their own or rule of the standard of the coding. So I may enable them some kind of code. I'm going to explain a little later what these codes are. First, there is a filter similar to what I added in here, like filter. This filter looks similar, but not exactly. This filter code checks the received message. And if you look at the area, for example, I may use this one for your better understanding about what I'm going to do is if you look at this code, there might be certain kind of array, which is XML style array, but it's quite hard to write down because it would be not IntelliSense like after typing certain character and typing that, it won't show up. But you can use the message template like here, I already placed here. It shows the tree structure that you can directly drag and drop. For example, this is MSH 9.9.1. This is 9.1. Okay, it's forwarded. So you can even see the value in it and then just drag and drop to get the value. The good thing about this one is that if you look at this line, the last line, I mean, put the PV1, which is the location to visit. And if you look at the here, I just put the pipe, a lot of pipe here. And what this shows, if I check here, lots of pipe in the message tree, see that? It shows the automatically what the each field is. Currently, I put the 15 pipe, and it shows the 15th one, which is ambulatory status. If you look at here, and if I had put the more one, it shows more. VIP indicator like that. So you can use the created HSM message, or if you're hard to find out, you can just type with the segment in here, like ORC, ORM, ORU, something like that. If you hear ORC, as I in here. So just that directly drag and drop here to look at the MSH 9.1. If that is not ORM, it restrict the message we not process in using the ACK generator. But there's certain little more information here. Can the ACK generator will create the custom message by specifying the type, message type, AR rejected or AE exception, or even AA here. And then you can put the extra message in here, as I mentioned in the here, something like this. And then you can put the response map as a custom ACK. And here's this extra one, the response factory to put the custom ACK object in here, extra 3. Then this custom ACK will handle either filter or regular case instead of the automatically send AA message all the time. And then if you look at here, it returns as a false. It won't process subsequent code, for example, the destination. And then if we go back to here, previously we set the auto generate, which is send AA message all the time after source transforms. If you get the bottom, you'll see that the custom ACK is showed up. And then for now, at this time, we check or select this custom ACK to respond as an ACK message. Secondly, you can put that ACK generator in the last section to send the corresponding message based on the condition. For example, we are going to use the MSH4 as well to identify if the location is Seattle, there is a age verification code and then checks the PID7. If you remember the test case that I showed you a little earlier, the PID7 is located in the third and fourth test cases. So just intentionally put here and intentionally did not provide or make it empty. So if the location ID is 1, and it will check the PID7 and then process certain code. But if there's no such kind of field or no value provided, it will create an exception and catch in here and then put the exception message in here. So for example, as I mentioned, the merge source could be used like here, MSH as a equivalent to MSH for that one. And if you want to retrieve another field or segment or component or subcomponent, you can use this line of code to create the XML message that can be retrievable out of the received raw data. And the raw data is H7 format, and it will automatically convert the H7v2 message data, raw data, to the XML style. And then it can be accessible using this kind of array structure. So, so you can use this style, as I mentioned, in the filter by putting in here, and then you can drag and drop, and then use in this area as well. But there's no way to that, but you can just copy from there if that is the important or need to check. You can grab that information here, there, and put in here, or just you can just copy and paste and modify. So once there is no value, and this line of code will fail and will be catched as an exception, and it will populate AE along with the exception message in here as ACK message, which could be in the third part of the argument before we put in filter, something like that. And in this case, we'll populate the exception message, or as we defined earlier in the top line, can put the default or happy path message unless there is no exception. And then it will be populated here and here. So here, AA. And if the location is not 1 or 2, in that case, it will be marked as a AR, and then it will be used as a AR, and then the populated with the rejected and unsupported facility. So there's no different, there's not some kind of little different, but there's no huge difference between this code and this code. Although there's no in-depth logic or deeper coding, but this will give you certain kind of idea. How can you interface with other application from Mirth Connect perspective? So by using this one, we can save and double check this is custom ACK, and we can deploy that. So once we deploy this, there's a thing that we have to double check because connection is idle because we lost the previous connection from the Maca side. Even if the ORM sender is still running, it is pointing at the previous session, not the port. So we have to restart to reconnect to the connection provided by the Mirth Connect. So we can, again, this should be stopped, and then the ORM sender needs to be stop or and start, or you can just restart it to reinitiate the connection. And then if you see in a small amount of time, it will be refreshed as a connected. You can just go to refresh or just keep waiting till the connection is established, now established. And then next thing is what we did before, the dichometer. It's not necessary, just in case. So let's take a look at what was done. And it doesn't refresh yet to 5. Oh yeah, it refreshed and it received. And for now, it has this information compared to the first one. See that? So we sent succeed instead of default message generated by the auto generated after source transformer. Okay, so we just finished the dichometer side, and now we can test from the ORM sender tester. So it is stopped now, and then we can start to send. Oh, it's already gone. So we just send 5 test messages to the ORM sender. And so let's take a look from the ORM sender side because it should have 5 messages. Based on the time frame, just send the 704 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 messages. So based on the previous sending, we have a different message. Of course, the first one is always to be success. So compared to the previous one, which is the number 7, this is T005 equivalent to first one. So number 8 is T004. And it is, if you look at here, it was AA, automatically generated. But this time, T004 is not AA because it was filtered or exceptioned by the ORM listener in Mirth Connect. So it returns the exception message. This is Java code, but it's not user-friendly, but this is for testing purpose. So in here, we just sent the exception code instead of user-defined, which is more user-friendly, as something like contact your IT specialist or developer or whoever responsible for this application. But anyway, we just saw that Mirth Connect sent custom message to Maca with this exception message. Of course, this is AE as we define in catch. And the second thing is also not processed in. This is a little different from the previous one. The field was there, but the value is not expected because the date format should be parsed because this is empty string. So anyway, this is also not user-friendly with the programming code, but by using this one, we can see that we can receive the message or send a message with Mirth Connect using Maca by sending custom or auto-generated one. So what we did so far was auto-generated SDK and custom SDK. But what if we want to receive, we means the Maca. What if Maca want to receive an HSM message from the external application? We already tested it internally, but what if we want to receive a message from the external application, in our case, Mirth Connect? For that scenario, you can just create another channel in Mirth Connect. But at this time, you did not add any specific code or logic here. Just use the simple channel that just receive the user-defined code automatically, I mean on the fly. So you can type the name as a ORM sender, similar to the Macas, the ORM sender, same as here. Because this is the application that sends to the target destination, which is Maca. So keep the message inbound, outbound as H7V2. And of course, this should be started. And the source, this is a channel, keep it, this is a channel reader because this just receive any kind of information that uh, sent to this channel through the probably dashboard user or may send directly from the other channel by using the channel sender. But we're not covering that part because we're just testing how can we receive the message from the Maca. So keep it as it is, channel reader. But in the destination, we are not going to do any channel writer because we have to send, sorry, in this case, we means the Mirth. Mirth has to send HSM message through the TCP IP here. So in this case, we set this connected type as a TCP sender. And this channel bottom sender will run as a client by pointing at the target application. In this demo, we are all working in the same machine, in my machine. And this could be a local machine. So we can set the localhost or even 127.0.0.1. And in this case, the remote port is Maca's autumn listeners port, which is 8081. So you can copy this one in the Mirth autumn sender and paste in here. So you can just keep as it is before. We're not covering about the keep connection open or the Papa side, just as it is. And let's check the autumn listener in the server. Yes, it is listening. And it has currently 5 records, transaction records. I'm sorry, 6 transaction records. And just hit the test connection button. Okay, it is alive. The connection is alive, and then we can use the target destination, which is Maca's autumn listener, to send certain dynamic message. You can just hit save change, and you can deploy the autumn sender. And then you can start that one. And then if you look at the channels and right click, you'll see that there's an option to send a message. And this the pop-up allows you to send a message dynamically, like on the fly in the autumn senders request. Similar way, because we still need certain special case to send an HSM message that cannot be possible with the application or through the code. So in this case, we may send an ORM message with exception case, such as 3, which is not acceptable, because we are only looking at 1, which is Seattle, 2, which is Bellevue. That's in here. So the expected result will be AR in case we are working at the only Seattle or Bellevue. So it will hit this line and will return as rejected. So let's look at the the message, and we can provide message 4 as 3, which is out of boundary. And you can just hit process message. Then if you look at here, we receive immediately. And before we look at that, you can just look at the autumn listener, which was 6. And we have another one, which is top one is, see that? There's a 3. Message 4 in exception that we sent was rejected and supported facility with this ACK message to the caller, which is autumn sender in Mirth Connect. And if you look at the here, you will see that there is a source. And there's no kind of response because destination is client, actual client to send. So we can go to the response that was returned by the Maca. So we can look at this ACK message in here. So once you receive the ACK message from the Mirth Connect side, you can add more logic in the autumn sender by adding more destination, like new destination here, in getting the ACK message and parse that and do some corresponding work based on your condition or requirements. So we are not going to go deeper in receiving because this gives you enough idea how to send or how to get. So our main goal today was to exchange the message, not how to handle the variety of cases or how to process the message. Only the focus on, only focused on the how we can send and receive the message. And additionally, some kind of test cases to test certain service or send custom message on the fly. What I just demonstrated was in the send ORM to Maca. This part. There's also screenshot with the what I just did. So this is all that I prepared for today's. So if you have any question or feedback related to the Maca, of course, the Mirth is not my main tool for now. You may ask some, but my main focus is about the Maca. So if you have any question about the Maca, please contact me through the Maca or Sambo at picklesoap.com. And hope you enjoyed this session. And if you try more, that'll be very appreciated. And I'm really happy if you do that. So have a good day and bye-bye.